news article, they say, well, at the end of the search, nothing illegal was found. But nobody's ever said, okay, so why did her husband go to jail?
That's the thing that I'm trying to shed some light on, and that's what stood out about your case and kind of got me paying attention to your case and looking into it, because I seen a lot of similarities with not only my case, but the biggest similarities, I seen a lot of similarities involved with the Breonna Taylor case in your case. Except for you was alive, you know, you're alive, your husband's alive, but at the same time...
And that's why we don't matter, because we live. So we don't matter because we live, but people have no idea the extent that these people went to, because they were panicking because they couldn't find anything illegal in my home. We had 2 businesses. My husband had 2 businesses. He was doing damn good with his businesses. You know what I mean? He was making up to almost $1,000 a day just from cutting grass and towing cars. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when they realized that we had legit businesses, and they started going through my file cabinets and stuff, and they were starting to panic. So at this point, it's hours and hours later, you know, and then it's like my husband, he come from the streets, you know what I'm saying?
So all of your husband's source of income and all of his businesses, you said he had multiple businesses that was all registered?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, everything was legit. Everything. We were so legit that I was told that I was the first person who was granted basically a trial to get our money back that they stole from us and then lied about and said they took $20,000 when it was only $8,000 they took from my home. So because they couldn't find any crime, evidence of a crime, so they had a lie and say they found all this money to make us look like these drug lords.
So they pulled the opposite number. So normally they say they took less than what they took, but y'all was so legit they actually lied and said they took more money than what they did.
Yes, and then they gave me. I wrote the forfeiture department, and I sent them everything from the bank, everything from our businesses, everything. I sent them everything they needed, everything they asked for, and they sent me a letter back granting me the right to a trial. And they said I would go to trial. So then on the other side on my husband's case, they started panicking. So they're like, oh shit. If this guy gets out of jail, or if this girl goes to this trial to get this money back, we're going to have to produce this $20,000.
Oh, so they started getting nervous. They started getting nervous because basically if you go to court and you beat the trial, and then, you know, they got to give you back your property. And then they marked your property up to be $20,000, so you would have received $20,000 instead of the $8,000 that they originally took. Right. Okay.
They would have had to give us the $20,000 that they said they took out of my house. So that's what it was all about. It was all about them trying to basically not have to produce that money, you know. So it's like I went through months and months turned into years of me doing my own, you know, going to the courthouse, and everything that they presented in my case or in my husband's case, I would take it down there and I would make sure it was legit. I even actually, the first time I found out the warrant was fake is when I actually called the judge's office.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. That's what I really want to touch on that with you, because, you know, upon what I did today and being down at the courthouse, and I was down there hours, and I'm sure you know how it goes. They play dumb. They have you going from courthouse to courthouse, and I did all that today. But the part that I really want to touch on with you is, what do you know about Tanya? What do you know about Tanya Hassman? Because Tanya, to me, seems to be, she seems to me to be like a very important piece that helps them get away with what they get away with.
I'm going to tell you all about Tanya Hassman. Tanya works for David Nicholson's office, and David Nicholson's office brings in about $34 million a year. So they process about 150,000 cases in Kentucky a year. That goes through her desk, pretty much. She handles everything that goes on with that office, and everybody that is a clerk is under her.
Right.
So she's the chief clerk or whatnot. She was actually she's been there for 20 years.
I thought she's like a supervisor. I called her a supervisor, but her title is the chief clerk.
She's chief deputy clerk.
Okay.
For David Nicholson. She's been there since the year 2000. So she's been there for 20 years. So imagine if they're processing 150,000 cases a year, they processed 3 million cases since she's been there. So imagine all the people that have went to prison under false pretenses because she's helped LMPD basically push these fake.
And that's my thing. That's my thing. She's really helping them. She's supposed to be helping us. Public service. She's supposed to be helping us. Public servant, a clerk, right? Supposed to help us.
Yes.
But to me, she's helping them, and that's what I detected.
No, that's her job. So one time when I was in her office, I came in, and you know, I'm not thinking anything of it. Actually, I had 3 insurance claims that I had, and I was basically just doing the things that my insurance company was asking me to do to get all this paperwork so they could process all this stuff. So I actually went in there. I wasn't even caring about whether there was an illegal search or anything like that, because mind you, I was so traumatized at the time. You know, I had went into psychiatric treatment for like some weeks, and I was just like, I was a basket case, like real bad off. Like, I'm bad off now, but like then me and my kids were like messed up in the head. So she basically told me
y'all was messed up in the head because of what they did to y'all, though, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
So she told me that she called, like she literally went and called one of the detectives, Chardine. She called him or called the DEA office. Mind you, that DEA office is the first office that has been opened up in the U.S. in like the district, you know, they opened it up in Louisville, Kentucky, like after 20 years, and they getting like $12 billion or $12 million in that one office a year. So they happy, you know, they going crazy because they want to prove a point that they can lock up all these people and get all these grants and money from the government. Right. So that's basically what they're doing, and she's helping them do it. But she threatened me several times. I went in there with her lawyer. She called the DEA while I was in there. And I was confused because I'm like, why are you doing all this when all I'm asking you for is a copy of a search warrant for my home? So mind you, I had already been downstairs to the district court and talked to them, all the clerks in there, and it was like the supervisor guy down there was the first person. He was like, they didn't have no warrant, and if we ain't got it back here, they didn't have no warrant. So they're in a lot of trouble. He told me this before I even really started getting deep into, you know, looking into the situation, because after they left my house, before they left my house, my dumb self, now mind you, I went to school to be a paralegal, so I know a little something, especially just like my basic rights. So, you know, they
so there you go, right there.
We're going to bring it back to you later on. Bring it back to me. You know, like I'm asking them the whole day, like, why aren't y'all giving me a copy of this warrant? I need a copy of the warrant, the third. So they come back and they give me this bogus ass paper. And the whole time they're calling, basically threatening my landlord, telling my landlord to give them a copy of my lease
right
to my home, because they want to know who all lives there. How do you not know who lives there? Mind you, they called right before they came in my home. They called my landlord and asked her who lived there.
So let me ask you this. Then
why wouldn't you even know who lived there? Why didn't you know this man's name?
Let me ask you this. You said something that just stood out. With you being, was you wanted to be a paralegal, or was you a paralegal?
Well, I kind of do little on the side stuff, but I went to school for it. I studied.
Okay.
I studied as a paralegal. So I actually went to school and studied law. So, you know, I didn't get to complete my, you know.
Okay, so with this situation,
to be a paralegal, first of all, but I wanted to have the experience and be taught from different levels. You know what I mean?
Right. So with this situation, I'm glad you just mentioned the paralegal stuff, because I know you know your stuff. And, you know, I'm a person that's going down that route, learning my stuff as I go, right? Been getting into law books. So check this out. As far as the search warrant situation go, because from what I detected with your situation, do you feel like it was a fake search warrant with your situation?
Well, I know for a fact it was fake, because the judge told me out of her own mouth that she didn't sign it.
Exactly. So can you explain to me, with my situation, with what I got going on, because everybody down at the courthouse looks at me like I'm crazy, and they literally don't give me no answers, even after I filed my motions. Can you explain to me how a search warrant could be executed on my house, but yet I don't have a case number, or I don't have a discovery either? So
how did they? Where's the investigation? You have to have your discovery material in order to even get a search warrant. Like, how do you apply? I'm confused how you have a case with no case number.
Well, initially what they did is, okay, so this situation happened last October. Now, initially, they told me they could not give me any information because of the fact that my search warrant was sealed. Now, I looked up the law with the situation. I'm sure you're familiar with the situation. Is they cannot seal a search warrant or any information longer than 60 days. And if they seal it for longer than 60 days, then they have to ask for a 30-day extension with me or my attorney present. And
okay,
that has.
Listen, I'm gonna go over the rules for sealing a search warrant. Okay. So I'm gonna stop you right here because I got so deep into it, I actually memorized this stuff. Okay. Okay. So the penal code is Rule 211. 211. So 211, I think it's 2D. It states that it has to be filed with the clerk. 211 2E says it no longer. It can be it can't be longer than 60 days. First of all. And you'll know because it'll have like sealed on the front of the front of the search warrant. And it'll actually in the affidavit it'll be requested.
And I've never received that. I've never received that. They said my stuff was sealed, but never received any paperwork that had that stamp that said sealed.
Yeah, you should have gotten the front of the search warrant. You wouldn't have gotten the affidavit, but you would have gotten the front of the search warrant, which tells you that like the affidavit is sealed because they're trying to protect. Like the person, whoever's going to. And
when you say gotten it, I would be getting that from the clerk's office, right? They should be able to produce that from me, right?
The clerks are the mediators, yes. So the motion, the attorney would have to put in the motion to basically extend like the sealing, and the judge can grant unlimited numbers of extensions, but each extension they can't exceed 30 days. And it had all that is over with the day that you go to your arraignment, unless they ask for an extension on not letting you see it until the day of the arraignment or something like that. That's as long as it can stay sealed. So after that, the clerks they unseal it because the case is over. You know what I'm saying? Did you even have were you ever arraigned? Did you even fight?
Listen to me. This happened last October. I've never been to court. I've never got a court date. I've never got nothing. All I got was my house tore up. And
so
I waited.
Would you have a sealed search warrant?
that's my whole thing. When I went down there, okay, so, initially when they came in my house and they did what they did, I'm thinking, okay, what the hell's going on? What was that all about? So then, I start putting two and two together. I start realizing because, I got friends and people that I know in the justice system. Well, I found out very, very quick that the detective that ran in my house was good friends with Brett Hankerson. So I'm like, oh, okay, Hankerson set that up. He sent these people out to my house, okay? So I'm waiting and waiting because my people, my connections, they saying just wait. Just wait till you get some paperwork. Once you get some paperwork, we'll go from there and we'll crack these guys. Because we know that this is a personal vendetta, and the only reason why Cole Gibson and them are out at your house is because Brett sent them there. But we need some type of paperwork to prove it, right? So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting on some paperwork, waiting on a court date. I never got nothing. Now here we are over a year later, and then every time I went to go try to retrieve something, they said, oh, it's sealed. You can't get nothing because this case is sealed.
But do you live in Louisville?
No, I don't even live in Louisville. That's the thing. How did Louisville police execute a search warrant on my house, and my house is not in Louisville? I don't live in Louisville.
Was you in Louisville at the time that the warrant was so-called requested, or they asked for this warrant or whatnot? Because you would have to been in the city limits of Louisville for them to request a warrant for your home.
Now, here's the trick. My business was in Louisville. My barbershop that I own.
Was you there at that time?
I was at Ford Motor Company working when they came and execute. And that's another thing. They're not telling me when this warrant went in, when it was entered. All they doing
because they don't have one. They can't tell you anything because
exactly.
They don't have one. Because when I went up there, they literally looked up my case number and told me, okay, well, there's no wonder why we can't find it, because it took me like a couple of months before, going down there every single day, and then the clerk oh, hold on, there goes a file a folder right here. Let me look in here. And she goes, oh, no wonder why we can't find a search warrant, because this isn't the original case number. So they made the case number. It was a district court case number, and they put a citation in this case number for district court, for the district court. Then they hid it in the archives building, and they dated it for 2015, which is 2 years earlier, so that no one would go looking for it. So when people looked at that, my husband went to jail in May, it was May 5th or something like that, when they got the prosecutor to basically pick it up. This same prosecutor, I basically took him to a lower court while my husband was going through his situation before I filed my lawsuit. I took him to court. I have video footage of me in the courtroom arguing with him about how
And see, that's the thing. That's the key.
A warrant 2 years later, and I had the copies that they were claiming were sealed in my hand in her courtroom.
That's the key right there, what you said. And see, a lot of people don't know you can retrieve video footage of the courtroom. That's what I did with all my cases. I got the footage from my cases. I also got Judge Judith McDonald Berkman. I got her on camera. Yeah, McDonald Berkman, which I believe she's in on it too. And then, of course, Judge Suzanne Schultz Gibson, which I found it ironic, and maybe someone in the Facebook world can answer this. And I pretty much know the answer, but check this out. I find it ironic that Judge Suzanne Schultz Gibson signed off on a search warrant that was executed by Detective Cole Gibson. Now, to me, it seems like their family or there's some type of relation going on there, and they kept it all within the family.
Listen, first of all, they don't sign off. They don't print off freaking search warrants like they're saying on the news while they're trying to make it look like they just print off these search warrants. They write them up. It doesn't work like that. Speaking of David Nicholson, he wears a lot of hats. He's very respected. He is the man who brought in the e-warrant system. He helped usher in the e-warrant system after 2012 when Watson versus Richardson case.
Right.
When Mark Watson went to prison. After that case, because they basically fabricated over almost 500 people's cases, and a lot of people's cases were affected. So after that, David Nicholson's office, because he was sworn in, I believe, in 2006, and then again in like 2012, and then again in like 2018 or some shit like that. He's like the Mitch McConnell of the clerk's office. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they don't even use that. They use the e-warrant system, and the e-warrant system doesn't work that way. The e-warrant system, it tracks every freaking thing. So for them to say, oh, here's your search warrant, dude, I can literally go on the court website and print off that same PDF and put it in, scan it into a computer and type what I want to type on it and make my own search warrant.
So let me ask you this. With that system, the e-warrant system, so I guess my next question would be, because these are some questions that I can't answer because I haven't like formally took legal courses or anything like that. I'm just picking up on things on my own. But let me ask you this. For them to execute a search warrant, they have to go through a matrix, right? There has to be, there's some type of matrix system that they go through to execute a warrant. So if they entered me into the matrix and enter my information in, wouldn't there be a track record of that, of the matrix system where they entered?
Yeah.
So, and then wouldn't I be entitled to that?
Go ahead.
Wouldn't I be entitled to a copy of that?